Hello, everyone. So we are live again for yet another Author Live Chat with Fans series. And today, Tuesday, it's your next page turner. We will be discussing non fiction books on Tuesdays, right? So, 28th March 2022, it's 8 p.m. CST. We are live again on Facebook page. And today we are going to talk about a fiction book written by a mother daughter duo, right? They write a paranormal fantasy, and I'm so happy to have them on the show with us to talk about the book. And today, it's the daughter who's going to be joining us actually to share with us their journey. And along with that, she will also be sharing her mom's role in writing and also their experience writing as a mother and daughter duo. So here's a little bit about the author. So Jacob Crawford. Jacob Crawford is the pen name for a mother-daughter writing team consisting of E.V. Jacob and P.E. Crawford. So P.E. is a mother of three, with Evie being eldest, and she spends her days philosophizing, studying quantum mechanics, and asking impossible questions. She likes to drink tea and has a habit of overthinking things. When she's not looking after her family, she can be found watching documentaries, reading articles, and expanding her very eclectic and unique knowledge base. Evie Jacob, on the other hand, is a philosopher some days, a scientist others, and a writer always. It's a wonder that such a scatterbrain ever gets anything done. But based on the existence of this book and several others in various stages of editing, she can at least jot down some of the ideas bouncing around her head. She lives in Las Vegas, where she spends her time planning to take over the world or hanging out with the family, possibly napping. She is a fan of tea, a hopeless geek, and an Oxford comma enthusiast. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Evie Jacob, Eveejacob. Now, without further ado, let's welcome author Evie Jacob to the show, and she will be, able to uh, share with us a lot more about herself and her mom. So, without further ado, let's welcome her to the show. Hello,
Hello.
hello, Evie. Hello, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us, and I value your time and your interest in getting in touch with readers out there. So, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about books and other things that I love.
Fantastic. And we are here to also learn more about what you do, who you are a little bit. So maybe a little bit about yourself. And, before we start talking about the book and how you teamed up with your mom to write.
Sure. Yeah, so I've always liked reading ever since I was a little child. And then, of course, that pretty naturally expanded into writing. And when I started wanting to write stories, I would run them by my mom, and then she would have ideas. And it kind of just naturally progressed into like, oh, we should write stories together sometimes. That would be a lot of fun. So that's how this series right here started. And we set it in Las Vegas because that's where we live, so we're familiar with it. Thought it's easier to write a location that you're familiar with. But also, the other kind of reason that I personally had was I feel like all media that's set in Vegas takes place on the strip and it's really focused on like gambling and all these kind of that stereotypical view that people have of Las Vegas.
Yes.
And I never see anything exploring what it's like to just live out here, which is
Oh.
just like living in a city where there's like
Mhm.
a famous landmark that you never go to. So
Mm.
I thought that would be kind of a funny thing to explore in the books, just kind of in the background of everything else happening is like, oh, by the way, they live in Vegas and that's just a normal city for them. So that's kind of how it started. And like I said, we brainstorm together, and then we'll sit down and we'll do like writing. I do most of the actual physical, like typing up the book, but
Mm-hmm.
we're talking through the whole process. We're working things through. My mom likes to leave that part to me because she speaks 4 languages and English is the 4th one. So she thinks I'm a little bit better. I think she's a good writer, but I
Mm-hmm.
her. I'll help her with that if she wants it. So I do a lot of the typing, and then we'll like read back to each other, like chapter by chapter or whatever's going on. We make those edits together. And then, so it's really a collaborative process of, from the very initial spark of the story to getting it into its final polished final form that's going out to the readers. It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And so, to those who are watching right now, if you have questions to ask Evie, or you just want to like say hi to her, you can always comment in the comment box on Facebook, and we will be putting that up on screen, and we will be able to ask questions, and it's going to be fine. So those who are watching, you can do that, and we'll be more than happy to take up questions. So Evie, right? So you mentioned that your mom, she knows about 4 languages,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really interesting. So growing up, what do you speak at home, and how do you learn languages? Like, have you ever tried learning languages, different languages from your mom?
I have. It
Has
was hard because my mom is from another country. She's from Aruba originally.
uh-huh.
So moving here, she was the only parent, the only person in my immediate vicinity who spoke other languages. So it was hard for her to teach. I do understand Spanish and Dutch really well, which are 2 of the languages she speaks. She also
Mm,
speaks the third one is, which is actually her first language, is Papiamento, and it's
mm.
a like kind of like a Creole language. It's a mix of several different languages. It's native to Aruba, so that's what she.
Aruba,
Mhm.
Aruba, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's where she's from.
Fantastic. And that's like a tiny island just
Yeah,
above Brazil.
yeah, it's
And
right off the coast of Venezuela. Actually, when you're there on a
yeah,
clear day, you can see the Venezuelan mountains across the sea.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. So you do have a beautiful mixed heritage of different cultures, and I believe growing up that would have also um, made who you are today. Your personality, your interpersonality, and things like that. So um and the writing part of it, right? Like, your interest in terms of writing, um when did you discover that you actually love writing, and the whole process of it, when did it start?
So for me personally, I know for my mom, it came about a little later, more in adulthood. I think she had never kind of been presented with the notion that she could write books.
Uh-huh.
And I think also like moving to a country where she was not speaking her natural language, she's kind of like, that's not a thing that you immediately think you're going to be doing. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was like I said, reading books a lot when I was little, and then I just enjoyed it. I remember when I was about 7 years old, I wrote my first book, which was an illustrated story about how M&Ms are aliens and they came to Earth in their little like candy packet ships, and I illustrated that,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. And from there, I just kept writing little short stories. I think the moment I really realized that I had a knack for it was in 8th grade. For Halloween, we were assigned to write a scary story, and
Mm-hmm.
then we were going to read it to the class. And everybody wrote like, the vampire story, the werewolf story, the slasher story. And I wrote this like twisted psychological thriller that was really like dark. There was no clear monster. It was just like this person with their own internal struggles and demons. And it really struck a chord with the whole class. I remember the reactions were very strong. I remember one of my classmates didn't want to follow me. She was like, I don't want to go up after that. That was too intense.
Ah.
And I was like, oh, you can like impact people with your writing. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. I've had authors do that to me, but I can also do that. So that's one of the things that made me start getting serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it
Mm-hmm.
was just finding an idea. And I have so many ideas. I think a lot of authors can relate to that. And it was about
Mm-hmm.
finding an idea that had the structure to turn into a full book, and eventually this became a series, which tends to happen to me. I'll come up with a book idea, same for my mom, and it just kind of blows up into several books in your head. Like the story keeps
Ah,
getting bigger. So,
fantastic.
yeah.
Right. So your mom, I think, like you said, she discovered her ability to write
Hmm.
a little bit later in life. So when she, when you were writing, when you were a kid, as a kid, and when you were writing, what kind of support that you got from your mom, or probably what to what extent was the involvement in encouraging you to write?
Yeah, she was always my mom has always been very up for whatever crazy zany ideas I had. Like if I wanted to explore a hobby or a project or something, she was like, "All right, let's make it happen. What do we need to do that?" Which was
Ah,
great growing up. It was a fun way to grow up because I really got to explore the world and the things I was passionate about and find what was right
mm-hmm,
for me. So when I said I wanted to write books, she was very supportive. She was very much like that. You can do that. Do you need anything to do that other than just
mm-hmm,
the time and the computer and whatever you already have? And so she's always been a very big source of support and encouragement for all my endeavors, not just writing, but certainly writing is one of them that she's always been very, very helpful with, very supportive of, and very encouraging of, which I appreciate.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Fantastic. And coming to this particular book, is this your first book, or maybe a little bit about how this book came about?
Hmm. So this isn't the first book I've ever written, but it is the first book that we took all the way through the process of writing, like not just a first draft or a second draft, but all the way through the intense editing and revision that a book takes, and then
Mm-hmm.
getting a professional editor involved, getting beta readers involved, and ultimately getting it to publication. This is the first one we ever did that with.
Ah, all right, okay. So talking about paranormal fantasy now, and do you this is all about teenagers, I believe this is more towards adult paranormal, young adult paranormal
Yeah.
book, right? So how did your mom help in that process, like trying to understand, were you having like differences in opinion with your mom, like were there uh, uh, differences in opinion, because you as a young adult writing a paranormal book would probably be different than what an adult would do, or probably what an older person would write, like. So
Yeah.
do you guys have like differences in writing styles, opinions?
A little bit. I mean, nothing that ever became an issue. I would say it's more like it's very collaborative. So like a lot of ideas will get brought to the table. Not all of them will get used, but it's a
Okay.
very supportive environment that we have. She was very on board for young adults. I told
Mm-hmm.
her a little bit about like the young adult books that I had read growing up, and then even still now as an adult. And she has always liked the idea of writing to kids and speaking to them. She's a mom, so she wants kids to have like the support they need, stories that help them and stuff like that. And that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons that, for instance, the books explore, in addition to like ghosts and paranormal things, there's a lot of focus on like mental health and getting the help you need and stuff like that kind of
Ah.
woven into the story. And that's part of like we both feel passionately about helping people, encouraging them, providing that support system, even just through the comfort of a book. I mean, I'm sure anyone who reads regularly knows that that's a great source of comfort and escape. And so
Uh-huh.
she was very much on board with writing to a younger audience in that knowing how valuable books can be to young adult readers. And that plenty of
Mm.
adults can still enjoy young adult books.
Uh-huh. Fantastic. And coming to the idea of the book itself, like paranormal fantasy, and I think it involves a lot of supernatural things, right? I believe. So I'm a little bit curious to understand where you got the inspiration from, the idea from. Were you always been a fan of paranormal fantasy books?
Yeah.
You know.
I have my mom always kind of grew up with like folklore and myths and stuff like that. So I think she always enjoyed those from her own childhood. And she's got a big family, and everybody's got like, the aunties with the ghost stories and things like that from her own family. So she would always tell me those, and she really liked them. And then also, she and I are both very curious about like various scientific things. So, like real science, of course, but then I also always end up applying it to fictional things, like what would be the physics of a ghost and how does that
Uh-huh.
work? So, like you'll find in the books that like the magic systems, the power systems, things like that, I do try to give a solid foundation of like scientific backing to it, even if it doesn't fully come across in the book. I like to have that in my mind for myself. Um, so it's a lot of it is just like your own curiosity and exploring that, and then going, oh, how would that play out? And then that just kind of expands into a story.
Ah, right. Fantastic. Now, the stories that you write and the books, finally, you have published the books that you've always wanted to, the stories that have always been at the back of my mind. Now, when you're holding it in the form of books, how does it feel? And what was the feedback that you have gotten so far?
It feels great. It's kind of like I remember the first time we opened the box of the proof copies, and like I got to hold, the book for the first time in my hands, and it was like, oh, it's real. Like we thought about this in our heads and we talked about it, and it was
Uh-huh.
this fun thing that kind of just existed in our imaginations for a long time. Oops, now I can't put it back. um, and it became a real physical thing that other people could hold and touch and flip through. And it's really interesting conceptually to see something that was an idea that you thought about come to fruition enough to be a physical book, and be out there in the world. Other people can buy it. It can sit on the shelf with your other books. So
Uh-huh.
it's really cool, and the feedback has been really great. I have people uh, haranguing me for the next book, which is a great feeling.
Mm.
Very politely, everyone's very kind, but
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to have fans. To have in jokes.
Mm-hmm.
There's like memes that my friends and readers have come up with that they will share sometimes that spawned from the books, and that's fascinating to me. Just
Mm.
because that's showing that it's like becoming part of their life and their world. I've had people tell me that like the way I write, like the main character struggles with an anxiety disorder,
Uh-huh.
which made a lot worse when she's got ghosts haunting her. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had people tell me that the way I write anxiety is very visceral and relatable, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which was interesting feedback to get. But some people actually found a lot of comfort and like recognition in that, so that
Ah,
felt good. Um, yeah, so it's been positive feedback and made me excited to write more. Absolutely.
I see. Now, if I heard you right, you mentioned that you've also incorporated aspects of mental health in the book as well, right?
Yes.
So, um, were you writing this book during the pandemic? I mean, like, what made you feel that this is an this is a crucial aspect to be added into the book, like, into the characters?
I think so. When I went to college, my degree was in psychology, and I think I've always kind of just felt this the weight and importance of mental health in all our
Okay.
lives. We all have mental health, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's in great shape or not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has mental health, and everybody at some point in their lives will struggle with their mental health. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's one of those things that I really want to destigmatize the conversations we have around it and make it more accessible to people. I think good representation in a book is one of those things that can help facilitate the conversation or help people
Mm-hmm.
see themselves, whether they know they have, like, in, for instance, Roz has anxiety, whether
Mm-hmm.
you know you have anxiety already and you're just relating to that, or you don't know yet, But in reading the book and relating to it, you start asking yourself some questions like, I related to that a little too much. Like, I think media has that power.
Uh-huh.
And so I think it's important to tell those stories. And in the case of this book, anxiety is something I can speak to. I can't speak to all mental health conditions, and
Yes.
I wouldn't try to, but I can speak to this one. And therefore, I felt that I should. And I think that it's part of both getting the conversation started and then just also making people feel seen and heard in their stories, which is always a good feeling.
Fantastic. Now, the other books that you're writing right now.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that this is not the first book that you
So
wrote.
this one is the first book in this series, but it's not the
Uh-huh.
first book I've ever written. No.
Okay. So what about the other books? I mean, like I believe that you have plans to write more books and more books coming out there.
Yeah,
So,
actually, I'll show you this one. This is the second book, and this came out.
uh-huh,
So this one, I didn't write this during the pandemic. I wrote it before, and it's been out for a while already. It published in 2017. This book
hmm
came out during the pandemic. I did write it before, but it kind of like there were scenes in this book that I like in editing it during the pandemic. I was like, it's weird that I wrote this, and then now
uh-huh,
it's kind of happening in real life
uh-huh.
because it did touch on some things that I feel like the pandemic brought to the forefront, and also just some literal scenes that I imagined came to life in the reality. And I was like, that was weird. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
right,
And then
right.
there are more books in the series coming out. I'm currently working on. My mom and I are working on. It's actually a side novella. It's told so the main series is told from the first person perspective of Rosalind, the main character. The side novellas are going to be told from her friend's point of view. So
Mm-hmm.
this one is one of the side characters telling his version of stories and like his experiences with ghosts and other things like that.
Right. So, in terms of the theme of the book, right? Is it always going to be paranormal, young adult paranormal fantasy book, or are you guys also exploring different genre, and how is it going so far?
Yeah, we do have some ideas for series that are different genres. They will be
Uh-huh.
outside of the series. The series will maintain its paranormal sci-fi fantasy uh,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the run of it, but we do have some other series planned that will
Mm-hmm.
be a little bit different, like maybe more of a high fantasy or
Mm-hmm.
more extremely sci-fi or things that are like contemporary with less magic. We have a couple historical fictions that we want to get into. We have a lot of ideas.
Uh-huh. Now, publishing, right? I believe that you would have had this dilemma of self-publishing versus traditional publishing and trying to go about it. And how did you settle with self-publishing option?
So I kind of always wanted self-publishing, even before I knew that was an option. I remember being a young
Uh-huh.
teenager and thinking, I'd like to own my own publishing company and just publish my own books because I want that creative control. And that like self-publishing wasn't really a thing at the time, but
Uh-huh.
as I got older, it became more common, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So I did look into traditional publishing a little bit. We explored that option, but
Uh-huh.
we ultimately, after doing some research, landed on the idea that, self-publishing was just more comfortable for us, more in line with what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed for the creative control of like how the book is presented, when it's presented, under what circumstances. I really don't think there's a right or wrong answer when it comes to traditional versus self-published. I think
Yes,
it's very much like what are you personally comfortable with and
correct.
what works for your experience as an author.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that self-publishing was absolutely the right call for us, and I'm very happy with it. It's a lot of fun. It gives me, like I said, that creative control that I enjoy, and it lets me tell the story that I want to tell the way I want to tell it and when I want to tell it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And the process of getting in touch with your writers, your fans, sorry, your readers out there, right? Um, how is it so far? Because for different genre, you have different readers. Like you probably will not be targeting a non-fiction reader for your books. Definitely, most
Yeah,
definitely.
exactly.
So, how do you reach out to people who actually like reading your book? I think it's a challenge, but I think
It
when
is.
it's being done correctly, I think the process of reaching readers audience out there will become a lot more a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
So how's it so far for you?
I mean, it is a challenge, but I think that's to be expected. It's not a challenge in a way where um, you're going in going, oh, I thought this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. You know, it's going to take some efforts and some time, but it hasn't been too bad with social media. The world is a lot more accessible to us than it used to be. So I've utilized a lot of that. I'm pretty active on Twitter. I've got my Instagram. I'm thinking of maybe starting a TikTok and playing around with that and just seeing what I want to do and if that can help me reach more readers. And just finding creative ways to get the book out there. Occasionally, we'll do some ad runs or something like that through Amazon KDP. And I even have a friend, shout out to Andrew Kane, who takes my books to conventions with him and then will sell them there. He'll sell hard copies of the books like when he's at a convention at his tables. So
Ah,
that's a good fun way. And now that things are picking back up, like in person events, looking to do more
yes,
of those as well.
I see. Now, creating a community of readers who read your book, and I believe you mentioned you've also engaged beta readers for your books, right? So, creating this pool of community of readers, like to support you, to just be there and offer support, or probably um, uh, gain their attention, on your books, what you do, your writing and things like that. Have you ever invested time and energy to strategize, the effort to create a community for you?
Yeah,
Who
absolutely.
reads?
The writing community, particularly on Twitter, is a
Mm-hmm.
great one. It's very supportive and welcoming, and I made a lot of really good friends there. Not even just like writing contacts at this point; they're genuinely good friends of mine. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we support each other. Like we read each other's books. We provide that feedback and support. And it's kind of a thing where it's like if I'm beta reading a book for someone, not only are they probably going to beta read for me, but I'm honing my skills as an editor. I'm refining my skills in terms of like, you know, how does plot structure, how does the book flow? Is this working or is this not working? Actively reading a book like that and giving feedback to an author, I find helps you with your own craft, helps you refine your skills and become a better writer. So it's kind of this great thing where it's like I'm helping you, you're helping me, but we're also helping ourselves in the act of helping one another. And they're also there to
Ah,
be, encouraging when things are getting hard or commiserate you with you when you're having like writer's block or just to strategize and brainstorm. I tried this marketing tactic and it worked. Great, I'll try it too. So we do have a really nice community on Twitter.
fantastic. Now, in terms of editing and the process of refining your manuscript, I think it's a challenge on its own, and I think a lot of writers struggle to find the right editor, proofreader, for their books. So, how do
Yeah.
you go about finding the right people that would be able to add value to your books? And how is the process of, like, possibly editing, like, removing, deleting a lot of things?
Yeah, it's hard. In terms of like removing and deleting, I'm actually what I refer to as an underwriter. So I write too short of a first draft, which
Uh
is
huh.
great because then I don't have to delete anything. I get to, or not too much. I get to instead add things in and fill stuff in. And hi, Tim, I can see your comment. That's one of those inside jokes I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's aliens, it's not aliens. It's a big debate in the books. Um, but to your question, yeah, it's quite a process. It takes a lot of time, a lot of rereading your manuscript. One of the reasons that you have to uh, go get beta readers to read for you is because you kind of stop seeing your story after a while. You're like, I've read this thing 20 times, start to
Uh-huh.
finish. I'm going blind to it. I'm forgetting what I changed. I'm losing track of the plot. I think I made this clarifying point earlier, but I didn't. Things like that. So your beta readers really save you in terms of um, like finding things in the story that are either not making sense or not being communicated well or just not lining up with what you said previously, and allowing for you to fix those with their input. And sometimes they'll have really helpful things, like you'll think you described a scenario clearly and they'll go, I'm very confused by this doesn't make any sense to me.
Huh.
So finding the right people is important. It does take some time because it's like any other endeavor where you're making friends or making contacts in a business, where you have to kind of like find who fits with you, who's interested in your writing, and who you're interested in, and all of that. But yeah, it takes time. But I think if you engage in the community actively, you will find the people you mesh with well. And I'm going to shout out my editor real quick if I can find his book.
Yeah.
This is this is an advanced copy, not for resale, it says, but this is Kotov Syndrome by Tim Bachman
Uh-huh.
Jr. He's my editor, so I help him with like beta reading and stuff like that. But he actually provides editing services, so I hired him, and he's great. He's easy to work with,
Mm-hmm.
easy to get feedback from. You want to get someone who your feedback, their style of giving feedback fits your style of receiving feedback. So some people
Mm.
are like direct and to the point. Some people soften it a bit. Tim's very funny, so he leaves me a lot of like joke comments and things in the margins, and that eases the pain of receiving edits and potentially criticisms for your writing, because it's fun and it's relaxed. And so working with him has been really great. And I have a great team. I have Caitlin Greer working on my book covers, which always come out so beautifully, and I'm so grateful for their efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I have Tim Bachman Jr. doing my editing, and also just like being a big support in the writing world. I've got Andrew Kane selling my books at events and stuff like that. So it takes time. This has taken years of like getting to know people online, but you will find that really solid group of people who will like have your back and be there for you and support you. And then you can work with them, and it does create a nice synergy, and you end up with a team who you can count on.
Fantastic. Now, all these efforts, like, how long has it taken you, like, to form this community and to find the right people? How long has it been since you were writing now? And, for all this to come into formation?
So I joined Twitter in 2009, which is when I started getting involved with the writing community. It didn't take until now for that to pay off. I want to say that my writing community was pretty strong by about 2015, 2016, where I had like
Uh-huh.
a lot of these contacts in place. I had met a lot of friends, and I had started getting more involved with writing. Um, I I know that, let's see, the writing process for the first book took a lot longer because it was less focused. It went through several drafts. I would put it aside and then pick it back up again. So the first book took us several years to write. The second book took less time. Third book is taking some time just because of the pandemic and everything that's been going on in the world, slowing
Mm-hmm.
things down a bit. But yeah, it's a years long process, but it's not a slog at the same time. It's a
Uh-huh.
lot of fun. It's creative. It's engaging, and it's you do make a lot of good friends along the way, and you do kind of just really enjoy the writing process when you have those connections in place.
Yes, fantastic, and I can relate to that. I think it's a long, tedious process. Uh, it takes years. It takes
Yeah,
years for many of us to find the right fit, to finally be able to make sense of what's going on. You know, but I think when we enjoy doing it, it brings joys to you. It feels like it's easy because you enjoy doing it and you don't
absolutely.
really, that there's no pressure, and you just enjoy the process of it. So and yeah, so for the audience out there, or probably to your readers out there, what do you have to say to them, and um, your next book, the upcoming books, what do you have in store for them? So maybe a little bit for the audience out there, for the readers out there.
Yeah. So coming up soon is going to be the first novella in the series of like
Uh-huh.
side novellas. So first two books are out. First novella will be coming out shortly, and then the third book in the main series will follow that not long after, of course. This is a 7-book series, so there will be 7 books in total. But coming much sooner than that will be the audiobook versions of the first 2 books that are out already. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited to be getting to do that finally. I always wanted to put audiobooks out, but it's a large undertaking and I want to read them myself. I enjoy that, and I think it's particularly cool when the author reads their own book.
Mm-hmm.
So I have actually in my house I have created a little recording booth that I can use so it can just
Fantastic.
be nice and professional. And so I'm excited to be able to bring that to fruition finally, and that will be coming out. I'm hoping the first book I can get out by like late summer, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second book later in the year or potentially early next year.
Fantastic. Now, as we are coming to the end of the show right now, do you have anything else to say? Probably, is there a message from your mom that you would like to convey? Since
Gratitude. She's really just grateful that people like the books and are reading them.
Mhm,
I think this was one of those lifelong dreams that kind of got stifled. My mom didn't have the kind of support that she gave me. So a
mhm,
lot of her dreams and goals and things kind of got like squashed down in her younger years. And I don't think she ever thought she was going to be able to have creative pursuits like this.
mhm.
So to everyone who has read the books or is watching this now, my mother says thank you for letting her have this creative outlet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Evie, for actually sharing a lot of things with us about your writing journey, about your book, and your upcoming plans as well. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I believe those who are watching right now as well, and those who will be watching this later on, because the replay of it is going to be available immediately, almost immediately, as soon as we end it, as soon as we end the show. It will be available on Facebook, right? The replay of it. And I will also be putting up this video on YouTube.
Great.
All right. I'll be putting this up on YouTube. So it will be available on YouTube as well, on Instagram as well. So I think Instagram has been having some issues in uploading longer videos, but I'm still working on, finding out how to go get about it. But YouTube, certainly we're gonna put that up on YouTube. So I will be sending you the link as soon as it's up on YouTube. I'll be sending you the link, and the replay link on YouTube. It's the same link. The video is going to be available for replay as soon as we end the live chat in a bit. So thank you
Okay.
so much for joining me today to talk about your fiction book. It was a pleasure talking to you, and also learning how you work with your mom, right, as a team. And I think it's a beautiful thing because we don't really see um, families coming together to create books, right,
Hmm.
to write.
Yeah.
So I think that's something really unique that I came across. So thank you so much for sharing with us the experience. And
Thank you for
uh,
having me. It was a lot of fun.
Tim, yes.
Always excited to get to talk about my books.
Ah, fantastic. So yeah, Tim, I think you're still watching, and thank you so much for watching and leaving your comment. It's much appreciated. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in some other interview series in the near future.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank you.
day.
Thank you so much. Have a great day too. Bye bye.
Bye.